Welcome back to number 16 out of 52. We're on month number 4. Today our guest is Margaret Keays. So let me know if sound is okay. It's been pretty decent lately, so I think it'll be alright. Again, patreon.com/snailshow for part 2, which will also be in the description box. If you want to ask her anything, just leave the questions in the comments and I'll get to them as I can. Hello. No audio yet. You always have to enable it. You have to enable it from your side. You can't hear me either? Uh-oh. Retro. Oh, looks like you're connecting.
There you go. Yes,
Okay.
I just needed to turn on the audio manually, which is unusual. Anyhow, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Thank you for
Awesome.
coming on.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, Zoom is weird. I don't know. It makes you manually connect every time that I've seen anyway.
Yeah, I'm usually the one hosting the meeting, so my audio goes on automatically. But I guess when I'm a guest, it's different.
Yep. I'm usually the same, usually hosting, but every time my guests have had to do that, so I have to sit there and try to use sign language to get the
You should
message
have a little
across.
sign. Turn your audio on, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you? How are things in Colorado?
We're good. We're pretty good considering the state of the rest of the world, from what I hear. I don't know if you knew about the new mask mandate fund that started again on, I think, the 20th here.
In Colorado or
In Colorado,
in your state?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't heard. I know it's very different depending on the state. The
Yeah.
whole big range between California and Florida.
Yep, it's a big range. It depends on how dictatorial the particular leader is in the region, but ours
Yeah, and
is,
how consenting the population is.
Right. The people around here, half of them always wore masks anyway, no matter what the ordinance was saying, and they kind of lifted the whole thing, and people still wore masks, at least, a good percentage of them. But at the end of it, near the end of it, people started just not wearing them, and the stores stopped saying anything at some point. So I was happy with that. And then this particular time, I thought it was going to be like a rerun of when they first started it, and it wasn't. It's kind of the same thing where it says, you must wear a mask on the door, but then if you walk in without one, nobody's going to say anything.
I see this as a, way of conditioning people to believe that, this kind of Simon Says game. Simon says, isn't that? Simon says, take your shoes off. Simon says, put the mask on. Simon says, it's okay to be without the mask. And at the end, your brain gets conditioned to listen to Simon, what Simon says, and then then just do it.
Without, and Simon does not encourage asking questions about what he's saying, right?
No. That's the whole gist of Simon Says. You listen to Simon, and you lose if you don't follow.
So everybody's just playing a game.
This is a game. That's the word. It's one of my favorite words. This whole thing is a game. Life is a game. This reality is a game. And it's fascinating. And the more you see it as a game, the more you, in a way, appreciate it and love the dynamic and see yourself as a creator of the game. That's when it becomes really fun.
Right. Rather than a passive bystander.
Non-playing character. You want to be the playing character, deciding what level you want to be on. What's the story that you're going to be playing after?
Yeah, when did that term come around? That came around 2017, 2018, as far as I can remember. I know it's been around with video games, because video games have always called them NPCs, but in terms of relating it to actual humans here, do you remember?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was a gamer very early on, and we didn't have all these terms. And I come from Poland. That's the accent you're hearing, so we did have different terms. But yeah, when those realistic games started coming up, when my kids were playing it, they were, I think even maybe before 2017, non-playing character. I think I heard my kids saying that when they were explaining what was that really cool game that I liked my son playing. I'll remember later. I haven't played it for long. But yeah, they're super realistic, and that they actually watching my son playing some of these games made me think, this is how life operates. How some people appear to you as two-dimensional, and some people just pop in your reality, and you need to interact with them no matter what. There's something there, like in a game.
So
then they may turn into NPCs again.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Can you share a little bit about your story here on the game set and how you came to be where you're at? Are you in Mexico? Is that right?
Of course. Okay. Long story short, I was born maybe a little different, not quite fitting into the game that was presented to me. As far as I remember, as early as I remember, it's just the world seemed really strange to me and didn't make much sense how people could, lie to each other like that, or be, or not hear each other's thoughts, or not feel each other, just kind of operate out of not knowing each other. Because I was very sensitive as a child, so I perceived a lot, and I thought everybody was perceiving it. They were just ignoring me. And then I started having these weird ideas about this reality being not like a game. I didn't have that term back then, but just some kind of a movie set. It was something that felt unreal about this. And then, as I grew up, the matrix sort of swallowed me. I started working for large corporations. I worked for a very large German bank, German and Dutch bank. I was a credit analyst for one of their divisions, and then I came to Canada, and again ended up in a corporate world in a large oil and gas corporation. And then at some point, it just didn't feel. It wasn't very fulfilling. And I started getting interested in all the esoteric stuff that I was very interested as a child. I just didn't have the terms, didn't have the words, but I could receive it, I could perceive it, especially being in nature. And I had my first big spiritual experiences that started returning me to my original state, as I call it, kind of more organic state of mind, kind of like pruning all these beliefs that I accumulated over the years. And I remember there was this one point when the whole global warming started being really pushed on my oldest kid. It just didn't make sense to me. And that was the point where I started questioning everything.
At global warming.
I'm quite radical. I don't just go like, oh, I'm going to question this part of reality. I'm going to question everything.
Yeah.
How do I know this? How do I know anything?
Mm-hmm.
And I started just kind of examining the main beliefs about reality, and it turned out that these beliefs were just somebody told me, I saw it on TV, I read it in the book, and I didn't really have any proof whether that was true or not. And I just created mentally a category in my mind. I moved these different theories from for sure, I know it for sure, to a possibility. And that really changed a lot. And then it just ripped through my mind, and I started expanding. Mm-hmm. As soon as you let go of these calcified belief systems that are limiting and open yourself up for something else, it's going to come to you.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough at first, but
it can be rough because it just destroys your basic sense of safety. Mm-hmm. Because there's safety in the knowing, there's safety in certainty. And so I quit my corporate world and started working with people. I actually started off with really deep spiritual facilitations in 2015. And at this point, I do mind deprogramming people. I do self-sabotage coaching, but it's pretty much deprogramming the mind, removing the old stuff from the subconscious.
Wow. Pretty
much the same process that I underwent. I was able to create a formula for this for people. So it's pretty amazing. It's especially when I have clients with addiction. Mm-hmm. It takes about 2 sessions or 2 weeks to move someone away from an addiction. And the one thing that they all say is, just don't need this anymore. Why would I need it? Someone pours themselves a glass of wine they're used to having every day. Why do I need this today? It doesn't feel good. You see, that's just what it is. That's why, I never address addiction. I address the underlying pain and what is it a symptom of. Once you resolve the root cause, symptom just.
So you don't recommend any type of medication or visiting professionals or anything like that? I mean, as far as like psychiatric professionals?
I think anything that is in a way mainstream. I mean, it's up to the person, and I'm not saying that there are no psychiatrists that should help the person. Of course, you just need to follow your guidance. But I just feel like anything that's coming from the matrix is designed by the matrix. Going to propagate the matrix evolution, mm-hmm. which always tend to lead to some kind of self-sabotage or self-harm, self-evaluation. These treatments, when you undergo a treatment like that, you're taken on as a person with a problem. That's the problem, and it becomes your identity. So it's reinforcing that and making it harder to dislodge. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt. I've worked with some people with very strong identity as far as, for example, abused person identity. And these are people who underwent a lot of counseling where it was repeated to them that this is them, it's their mm-hmm. identity over and over.
Yeah.
And your mind doesn't need too many repetitions to take something on as a belief. So first this needs to be like that identity needs to be kind of turned into mush, so you can go in there and just model it a little bit and make it into something else.
Right.
If it's solidified, right. There's just no way of moving it.
Why do you think, just considering the idea of this being some sort of a matrix, why do you think it thrives so much on like pain and suffering and addictions? The pain cycle seems to be so exemplified here. Why do you think that is?
I think it's very easy to introduce any sort of program if you are traumatized first. So addiction is an attempt to heal the pain.
Or mask it.
Yeah. To dissociate very often.
Mm-hmm.
hard. It's too hard to bear the pain. So you dissociate, or if you're growing up in a chaotic household, you are going to come out and you're going to look for the chaos in your life. And alcohol will provide that. Coffee will provide that. Smoking will provide that too.
Right.
So it's another thing. Yeah, you're trying to recreate the known vibe in your life from your childhood, especially what you have acquired between years 0 and 5 years old. If the parents were arguing, if there was some kind of sort of self-abuse, alcoholism, or dissociation by watching TV, for example, excessively, you're going to absorb that vibe. The first few years of their life, kids kind of walk around in a hypnotic state, absorbing everything like sponges. We know children are like sponges, but it's even on a deeper level. They're absorbing the general vibe of the environment, and then you go out and you have to, in order to feel safe, your subconscious will want you to repeat that which is familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So chaos. So lots of people are recreating chaos. Put the mind out, take one pattern and just keeps recreating it until you're done with it, until it's just so painful you can't stand it, and you just want to be out. And that's when you need to get into the subconscious mind and just tweak it a bit.
So how do you
safety somewhere?
How do you have people? Do you regress people? Do you do hypnosis? How do you get people to access their subconscious?
Yes, hypnosis is a fantastic way to do that. It all depends on the person. I'm an intuitive coach, so like I said, I started with spiritual facilitation. So I just have a feel when the energy in their field spikes up. It just takes me to what I need to do. So sometimes I would do a meditation. Sometimes it leads to regression. Sometimes we find ourselves in the past life and we're processing something from the past life. Or we go to a childhood memory, or it's just a conversation where they suddenly become aware. They have this aha moment, and it's enough awareness to illuminate the underlying subconscious belief. So they see the whole thing, the whole mechanism, and as they see it, it really starts crumbling, and it stops really pulling their strength. That's another way. Hypnosis, and also giving people different tricks and tips in regards to how they need to set up their environment. Because your subconscious mind is constantly registering everything that's in your environment.
Right.
The sound, the visual, everything, feel, and is storing it, and then it goes out there and gets the average of all the images that you have acquired. So that's why propaganda works very well, because it's something repeated, and then your subconscious mind thinks, oh, if it's repeated, it's safe. Mm-hmm. So repeated behavior you see on TV, it's safe behavior. So I just sort of examine what's in the people's environment that makes them do what they do, reprograms them, and then remove those things from the environment, and then put in new things. And their mind just gets programmed in just by exposure. It's actually very simple.
So will you have people rearrange their entire house or their entire bedroom and just have all kinds of different material objects, pictures on the wall, things like that?
It's extremely useful, and it can produce wonderful results. Just moving the light switch of your night light wakes your brain up, because what happens is 90% of the time we're on autopilot. You are in the trance. So you need to start coming out of the trance more and more and creating new elements in your environment, or that light switch being a different place. It wakes you up because you reach there, like your hand just reaches there and you try to turn it on, but it's not there. So you need to look for it. Where is it? And it also gives a signal to your subconscious mind. There is a change coming up. Change is okay. Yeah. Little things, Really, it's the little thing. It's the background object.
That's very
our
interesting.
strength. It's fascinating, yeah.
What do you think about? Because what sort of drew my attention to you was your posts about helping people in Canada who are trying to possibly get out in front of the tidal wave that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think about this current show that's playing in terms of how it's going to affect everybody?
Yeah, it's an international show, as we know.
Right.
We have the same scenarios. I'm Polish, and I do tune into the Polish propaganda once in a while to see what they're saying. It's the exact same propaganda. It's the exact same words and phrases and concepts they're given.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a global thing that's going on. In Canada, we have a bit of a pickle right now. We have a bit of a situation because the government is now have decided to limit people's movement, people who don't have the new medicine in them. They will not let them on planes and trains as of October 30th. So, but even before that, many people felt quite oppressed under that current regime.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite oppressive. It's heading towards the same situation as we see in Australia and New Zealand. Same thing. So, because I moved here last year, I had people reaching out and asking me, how did you do this? Blah, blah, blah. And so I offered, because I've been answering the same questions, I offered people, well, why don't we do a Zoom call? And I'll just answer these questions once, and you will all be informed, as opposed to typing into that little Facebook window, blah, 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 blah. So, and Jason Christoph, I don't know if you know Jason, he has a huge presence online, and he picked up my effort, and he said, well, Margaret, this is a great idea. I'm going to send a blast about it. So he did, and I had over 800 people signing up for that Zoom.
Oh, wow.
That was supposed to be just for friends, friends and acquaintances.
That's really cool.
Here I am. During the Zoom, people were asking more questions, so I have decided, well, then I'm going to create a information portal with just the practical information, do-it-yourself, kind of move to Mexico. And so that came to be. And currently I also do strategy sessions with people as far as which airline to take, because I constantly get feedback from my people who are coming in, arriving into different places of Mexico, or realities of life, how we had here, for example, the passports for 10 days in the city that I live in. I live in Mazatlan on the Pacific Coast, and it was exceedingly interesting to watch because you could see how the Mexican mentality in times like that, how the Mexican mentality comes through. And by Mexican mentality, I mean live and let live.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be no snitching here. There's no snitching. There's no snitch culture like there is a very strong snitch culture in
That's
Canada.
good.
I don't know, U.S. probably too in some places, that liberal areas.
I think there's a little bit of snitch culture here, at least.
Yeah, you have noticing, it's huge in Canada. So
not so much in Mexico?
No, and people really don't care that much. I mean, even on the government level, they're doing what they're told, but they're not told on the whole program, on the whole, how do we call it, the whole global plan, as we see that in Australia and Canada, UK, and New Zealand. So they're not quite sold out, but I don't know, maybe they're blackmailed, maybe they're being paid, maybe, I don't know what's going on in there, but the thing is they really have no interest in enforcing it.
Yeah.
That's what's really appealing about this country. We know the agenda is probably everywhere, and if not, it's gonna spill everywhere, but it's not gonna be enforced in the same way. And there's no infrastructure here for serious enforcement, facial recognition, stuff like that. We just don't have the infrastructure.
That's probably a good thing.
That's a great thing, and the 5G it's really not quite we're not there yet.
So you're saying the passport was enforced for 10 days and then it was dropped? Is that what happened?
It was really funny. Lots of people actually panicked and left for safety. They fled for safety. And I stayed, and I was I wanted to see, I thought this is great because I'm going to actually see how this will be enforced, because I had my predictions on how it may go, but, I was really very interested in seeing it live. So what happened is the mayor brought it on, and within a few days, over 300 citizens filed for an injunction, deeming that it's unconstitutional, and the judges agreed that yes, this is unconstitutional, and it was completely removed after 10 days. But during the 10 days, you could see people enforcing it, and how they're enforcing it, and it's really, it's almost like you're playing a pretend game.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares.
Were they just checking phones? Like, were security guards checking phones, or like, how is this even going?
Yeah, so they have this app here on the phone, or you can have a photo of your thing on the phone, and as long as you showed them something on the phone, they're like, okay, get in. My friend, it was funny because a friend of mine went to the market and they wouldn't let her in, and she was typing something in Google Translate, some question. So she typed it in, translate, and she showed it to the guy, and he didn't even look at it. Okay, get in. You showed me something, I don't care. So they're doing their job, and their job is ask for something and let people in if they show them. So they don't care. They don't scan it. The people don't have equipment here to scan the code.
Right.
Oh, and the deeper you go inland, because I'm on the coast, and the coastal cities are very rich in expats. So the deeper you go into Mexico, the more raw it becomes, and the less people care.
Yeah.
As far as whether you have this thing or you don't have it. So you end up sitting at the table with a bunch of good people from a pueblo, and you just talk to them, and they share, oh, I got 2, and somebody else says, oh, I had none, and nobody really gets bent out of shape. It's almost like saying, oh, I take Tylenol for headache, oh, and I take Advil. Okay, we're still friends.
Right.
So the polarization is really not present, and I think that is very hopeful as well. To survive in the go through this historical hump in the history of the world, where with a bit of dignity and humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think being that it appears to be 99% compliance only as far as what's wanted out of this thing, and not as far as any virus or anything like that. It's minimal if it exists at all, or maybe it's the flu, but very minor compared to compliance, right? And compliance is only able to be achieved without a military force that can, actually match the amount of people they're trying to corral. It can only be obtained through self-policing, through the people policing each other. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So if we have this sort of nonchalance that you're talking about, like people are like, yeah, someone's playing this game over here, we're kind of playing, but we don't care that much. Like, that type of attitude is the exact attitude that will make the thing completely flop.
Yeah, I think it's going to flop in South America, because this is not just a Mexican way. But, it's not like people are not compliant. They were compliant, but it's kind of going through the motions, not being engaged in it, and they're used to corrupt government. Mm-hmm. And they know, like, they need to follow some kind of rules, but there's no will. It's not like in Canada. There's this eagerness to be a good boy or a good girl, and point out that somebody's not a good boy. You're a bad boy. I'm gonna call police because you had people over and you shouldn't have people over. This kind of thing. It's just not here, and so it's for me. It's so refreshing, and it's like this a little respite, like a place where humane behavior is still something natural and coming out of people.
Yeah, that's nice. It's
and
nice.
We're being scared, threatened with all the safety things and with cartel. Before I came here, I heard so many times. I heard this one question. But how are you going to do it? It's not safe. So all that programming, Hollywood programming about Mexico is also coming through.
Mm-hmm.
That Mexico, that's cartels, that people killing people. And I'm not saying there's no criminality, but also there's not what we think it is. So for some reason Mexico has been pitched by the propaganda as an undesirable place.
Maybe that's mostly because of the mentality of the people, where they can't be controlled very well. So they know if everyone found out that this is kind of a place you can chill, then they're not going to be staying in the other places where they can control them. So they're like, oh, Mexico is horrifying, and you're going to get killed immediately, and all this kind of nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. There's something weird about this. Because I hear it from pretty much everybody. Everybody has that question. So on my portal, I created the whole chapter about safety.
All of these people who have probably never been to Mexico, right?
Yeah. Just a question, what is safety? And everybody's perception of safety is, of course, different. And here's how it is in Mexico. Here's how you can make yourself safer. There are ways to make yourself safer. Of course, there's, wherever there's poverty, you will have robberies. You will have people trying to survive and coming for your belongings. So, so that's why lots of people have chihuahuas. Chihuahuas are great because they don't eat a lot. They make a lot of noise. They are just dogs. Perfect. So you see these yapping chihuahuas everywhere.
Oh my god. That's hilarious.
Just hang out, and they're perfect. They're perfect home alarms.
What do you think about the whole idea of the boy who cried wolf? That idea, right? I feel like the control system itself is crying wolf, right? To some extent, it's saying, something's scary, right? And it's not, it's a lie. What do you think the ramifications are of that over the long term, assuming we make through this, without everybody dying or whatever, worst case scenarios? What do you think will come out of this whole boy who cried wolf from the side of the government thing?
I think
it gets
this
exposed?
is a classic. This is an actually old interrogation technique. When you try to create panic and then nothing happens, and then panic, nothing happens. What it does, it creates dismissiveness in people. It creates lack of clarity. It brings you to fight or flight. It seems like they want to maintain with all these new crises. There's always something new coming. And then we forget about the old. We don't even talk about this, and there's a new crisis. And then this one suddenly disappears, and we have a new crisis all the time. So it keeps your body in fight or flight. When you're in fight or flight, the limbic brain, the lizard brain, takes over and seeks safety. So your prefrontal cortex, your reason, your logical thinking, is overridden by the lizard brain. So that's why it's present in the news. You watch the news and immediately there's this, oh my god. No matter whether you believe it or not, you see the visuals and your body reacts to it. Mm-hmm. But kind of in the zooming out into the big picture, this constant panic, cases down, cases up, cases down, cases up. It just it tires you down. I think it's meant to wear you down. So you are then agreeing, and so you submit.
Right.
And many people will, if they watch TV. All it takes, click. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
Don't.
I think they're probably completely misrepresenting how many people have actually submitted. I don't think, if they say, in Israel, 90% of the people have gotten it. Like, I don't know if I actually believe that.
No, and the TV and the news is not for you to be informed. It's not to inform you. It's to create the reality so you act accordingly. So they're going to create the perception of reality for you to act the way they want you to act. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The statistics, the case, as soon as I hear cases, I internally just roll my eyes. Unbelievable.
Well, the flu disappeared in 2020, right? It's not even on the books anymore.
Right. There's nothing to see. No? I'll explain. There's just nothing. I don't know. It's funny.
So how many
funny,
people?
but
How many people have you actually assisted to get to Mexico from Canada, roughly?
lots of people. Lots of people. I would say probably, I mean, lots. I would say probably about 70 people. Some of them came. Some of them are in the process of coming. Some of them encountered a circumstance that doesn't allow them to come. But they explored the idea.
Yeah.
So some left it for later. But it's about, I would say, 70 people.
That's really awesome. That's good.
Pretty awesome, yeah. And I don't know. And there may be people who are in my groups. I have 150 something people in my Telegram group, and those people are also benefiting from the information I hope I give. I give a lot. I give a lot for free. I volunteer a lot. Lately, I'm putting together a private jet flight for those people who didn't make it on the direct flight to Mexico. So we'll see how that goes. I have 2 jets now on standby with me. They're going to be filled. I hope, if people need it, they're going to be filled. If not, then that's okay.
Do you think
Service for humanity.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
October 30th is actually a deadline, or is that more of just more fear propaganda?
Well, it may be both. I'm not sure because that announcement that they have written down, it's pretty clear to me. And it states that people who are not partially done will not be able to fly. And if they are just partially done, then they need a PCR test to accompany them. So I don't know, but the government backed up a few times before, so maybe they will back up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Back down.
Hopefully.
That's the proper way of saying. Here's my Polish language. I sometimes translate terms directly from Polish, and funny things come out.
That's your original.
Yeah.
Is it Portuguese? What is it?
Polish.
It's Polish. It is actually Polish.
I'm Polish.
Okay.
Yeah. So I lived under the communist regime for 18 years.
So you already know what it's about.
Oh, I know. I know what they're going to say. I know what they're going to do. I know all the propaganda tricks. It's the same thing. It's unbelievable. So as this sickness propaganda started, I immediately, not just me, I'm not some kind of genius, but pretty much everybody I know who grew up in the regime, they were kind of looking at, you see what I'm seeing? Okay, what are we gonna do?
So,
it's just so blatant. It's the same thing, trying to install itself.
So can you elaborate a little bit on how it was? You said for 18 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Living under that sort of regime. Like how did you maneuver yourself living under that as a family?
So that's really good question. So I was a child. My whole childhood up to 18 years old was communism. Actually 17. 17 years. Was under the regime. So it's a little different from the child's perspective, where I didn't have to worry about where are we going to get the food, where are we going to wear. What I can tell you is, so maybe this is Canada 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. The TV, we only had 2 channels on TV, and everybody knew that it was propaganda. So we were all laughing about this. Yeah, okay. And there were, of course, people more privileged who were in the party, who were helping the oppressors and working closely with the oppressors. So these people you knew, so you cannot say certain things around them because they'll be happy to tell on you.
Yeah.
As far as the supply chains, in a planned economy, planned economies don't work. They make a 4-year plan. It would make a 4-year plan for how many tractor parts do you need, how much toilet paper do you need, how much meat does society will need, and it all will always backfire and into shortages. So we had major food shortages, and Polish people are very resourceful. I can't say the same about Canadian people, so it may take several years for Canadian people to learn that, because our history is we've been at war with Germany and Russia so many times. It's been back and forth. So we've learned this resourcefulness, and we've learned to do with very little, and to be creative, and to collaborate, exchange, barter. So there was lots of that going on. Every time there's a prohibition, or if there's shortage of something, you have black market forming.
Right.
Right away, like next day.
Yep.
Black market. Like here, for example, they brought in the passports, and the next day I already see people showing, look, we got this. Somebody's making these things. Here's the market.
Right.
So, right.
Like papers, right? Like you get a new ID and things like that.
Yeah, papier this. Yeah, you get your stuff to get in the market. This is what I've observed here. So, kind of in a similar way, where there's hardship, people will be more resourceful. When people live in comfort and in a sense of abundance, that skill sort of gets it's not practiced, so it disappears.
Right.
So with all the food shortages that we had in Poland, we my parents had some contacts with some people from the country. And these people would bring in illegally, would bring in meat once a week, big slabs of meat that my mom would buy, take a look, and put in the freezer. And we had lots of meat. The stores were empty. We have rationing cards for sugar. You only could consume certain amount of sugar. It's not like it's a good thing to consume, but nevertheless, just an example: sugar, flour, meat, alcohol. Toilet paper. There were rationing cards for all these things. So the government would tell you can only consume so and so, this and this much of that. So people who didn't like sugar would exchange for cigarettes.
You just barter, right?
So you would just barter with this. You
Right.
just creative. So that was it. So I really living in this and seeing this firsthand. I have a strong belief in human survival skill and also human spirit.
That's good.
Except when the society is demoralized, and and when you have, for instance, that snitch mentality, then there's of course less collaboration, and there'll be just little centers, little groups that will collaborate. So those collaboration circles will be smaller, and you have to do things in secrecy, this kind of thing.
Right. What do you think? What do you think in terms of the idea of having not enough items, right? Like the shortages you're talking about. Because this is very fascinating to me. Also, just the idea that there may be enough food produced per your footprint for everybody, but then yet due to whatever system you're operating under, suddenly there isn't enough food for everybody. Like, do you think it's really because there's not enough food per person overall, or is it the system is somehow making it super inefficient and the distribution is not working right? It's very strange to understand like how that actually filters out to the people.
Mm-hmm. I think some of these shortages are created. From what I know, what's been happening in Canada for the last year, this undermining of food supply chain especially, has been going on for over a year, where the farmers are just told not to produce.
Yeah, we had the same thing going on in the U.S. They were told to burn their crops. They were told to sell all their animals. Paid to
some farmers had
to
to kill their animals, or destroy some of their crops because they were not allowed to sell. So this is done on purpose, and it's straight up hitting your survival, fear of survival. So it's to traumatize you even more, probably.
Yeah.
Shortages of this, shortages of that. You start panicking, and you live in this fear, and then you are very easily manipulated. And I really don't know what's the end game. There are several theories, but where it's going, it looks to me that we're going towards the China model.
Mm-hmm.
We're heading towards that's the model.
Well, at the least, I think the sort of parasitic influence that is asserting itself, it's showing that China and U.S. and Canada and whatever else in terms of the control structure, it's kind of the same entity. We're seeing now via this thing that it's all the same thing. It's not like U.S. is free and China's not free. Maybe there was a mirage or something that was the case, but I feel like this particular thing that happened is just telling everybody it's all the same. Just that we're pretending, just like we pretend that Republicans are the opposite of Democrats. We pretend that,
Exactly. Yeah. It's a cookie cutter. It's just there is a model, and it's the foundation for the model was being created in the Western economies for several times. They were ripening it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And to install this particular model, and at this time it's being installed. So the prep work has been done, the brainwashing has been done. The right people are in their position, so we can install it now. And it's funny because now it's so in the open. Yeah, so they're also revealing themselves as far as who they are.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see. So it's also so that those powers that they also, I feel like they're very vulnerable at this point because they haven't installed the system yet, but they are very visible.
Right.
So I think this next, I think maybe until March is going to be, we're going to have to decide, do we want this or do we not want this parasitic this structure, this Chinese model to be installed?
What do you think is the value of groups, if it's even possible to organize locally or even on an online group? Do you think that they can be useful, or do you think they always get infiltrated and co-opted? Do you think it's a wise expenditure of energy?
I think so, because there's so much work by the powers that we put into breaking the group. So it must be threatening.
Right.
So yeah, even though they get corrupted, I would still create that, but maybe more so local group, because that would be harder to infiltrate. Physical, contact with people. Here in Mazatlan, there's few people who came through me, so to speak, for whom I helped organize themselves, and they decided to come to Mazatlan. So we have every Tuesday, we have our, we get several tables together, and we go to a restaurant and we chat and we exchange, and so we are creating a community right now.
Okay.
So this is what's going to help us survive, being a part of a physical community. But online communities are great. You just need to be really smart, moderated in a certain way, so you don't allow for the corruption to come in. And I've moderated. I have a group for conscious parents that is almost 6,000 people, and because I set up rules a specific way, I don't have to deal with trolls. I don't have to deal with anybody who is not aligned, who is not kind of respecting the rules of that energetic container that is the group, is asked to either stop or is being removed. So it's actually very easy to remove someone from an online group. It's super easy. And these trolls or something, they reveal themselves. And the moment they reveal themselves, you just remove them.
Right.
Done. Boom. Block.
No drama. Just remove them.
No, and it doesn't have to be drunk. Okay, no, this is not a good fit. Done.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's also not coming in, with this power. Or, I'm a moderator. I'm going to do this to you. No, that's wrong. It's just okay. There's no fit. Energetically speaking, you don't fit in this container, and I'm the guardian and the host of the container. Yeah. I represent this way of thinking, and I represent this this concept here, that is this group, and you don't fit, and you come into the structure and you try to cause destruction. So I'm going to escort you out. Very simple.
That's good.
Yeah.
They need food, right? Trolls need to eat. So if you don't feed them with reactions, then they're just done.
No, there's no way, no need to discuss anything or convince someone. If there's no fit, and if they come with some kind of destructive messaging, then they're escorted. Simple.
What's the name of your group again?
So my group, my group is I have a few groups. One is called Conscious Parenting, and that's for parents who are interested in, instead of fixing the child, they're interested in actually self-work, because children react. They don't really act as much as they react.
Right.
So there's wisdom in that. So yeah.
Okay.
I had some social justice warriors there the other day. Oh,
what were they saying?
funny. Not just the TV points. Only, but you can see, when you have people like that with these points, the self-righteousness and unsolicited advice. They usually come in with a moral superiority, a bit of abuse, and unsolicited advice. You see, it's interesting how people are afraid to stand up to this kind of attitude, and so that's where I come in. As a host of a group, I just question it and point out their attitude, and if they don't stop, they're out.
Yep. Being neutral is what I've found is the best way to deal. Also, just blocking.
Not engaging in the story, not engaging in the drama.
Yeah. Yeah, and just blocking somebody if you can feel, if you can sense like what they're about, then just block them.
I know. There's lots of energy. Can you feel it coming through when you are interacting with someone online, and you feel their vibe through the text?
Yeah. It goes straight through, loud and clear.
Yeah. Do you have any groups?
I've tried groups off and on. I'm a part of some groups, but I've seen so many of them disintegrate, like implode from the inside, that because I'm a born introvert, I'm not all about being social all the time. I had to learn how to do that, and I prefer it, So if the group is over here and everyone's being abusive and it's imploding, then I'm like, well, I'm not an extrovert anyway, so why am I wasting my time here? But I have, as far as this current situation, I think it does need the whole boots on the ground thing to some extent. If they are going to screw up the supply chain and make it so people can't really eat, unless they do the thing, that's just a dictatorship. There's no reason in sugarcoating it. It's Nazi. It's the same exact thing.
It's a criminal activity, yes.
Yeah, fully criminal, without any doubt about it. The idea that you should be giving, my girlfriend made a good point the other day. She said, because her job was trying to say, well, you're going to have to enforce this mask mandate, right? And she was not going to do it, and she was going to say, I don't feel comfortable giving medical advice, Not to mention it's illegal, so you're giving medical advice when you're saying you need to wear a mask. That's medical advice.
Yeah, we can take that. Yeah, absolutely. Because most of the stuff is outside of law. This is just a make-believe.
Yeah.
People believe it's law. People believe this is the rule.
So I hope everyone sues everyone. I hope the court cases. I hope the courts get so clogged up with this fake stuff that they can't even see to actual crimes anymore. So then they can actually see with their eyeballs. Oh, there's something really crazy happening here.
Yeah, and personal liability notices that this is a very juicy idea, where you don't sue the mayor's office, you sue the mayor personally.
Yeah.
Or send them a personal liability notice. Yeah, you caused me harm. Here.
Make them feel it. They have to feel it. If they don't, because if they're allowed to get away with criminal activity with no repercussion whatsoever, then guess what? They're going to keep doing it, especially if they're getting some sort of a treat on the other side. If they're getting money, if they're getting favors or whatever, then what's going to stop them? They're never going to stop.
No, they're going to want more power.
Yeah. It's addictive. It's
the natural progression.
It's very addictive.
Yeah, until it's too much for people, and then we have another revolution. How many of those we've been through as a humanity?
A lot. We're probably in the beginnings of another one right now.
Yeah, we'll see. If they put too much pressure on people, that's what they're going to get.
Yep.
So that's why they go back and forth. A little bit too much, and then backing up, but not backing up to the original space.
No.
a little further. So it's really progressive.
Yeah.
Progressing. You see them backing up. Like there's something in France. Like they wanted to have those passes for everyone for getting anywhere, and then they backed down. But they didn't really back down. They actually progressed with their just small.
Yeah.
They took another chunk of freedom. That's why but the perception was, yay, hooray, they backed down, we're so powerful. No. The net effect was you lost some freedoms there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And also the idea of freedoms with an S, that wasn't even a thing before all this. It was just freedom is freedom. There's no S. It's just you can do as you please, so long as you're not hurting somebody. Period. That's the whole end of the story. Not you have a number of freedoms that you can count on, between 1 and 10, and if you violate this and that, then your number of freedoms is going to go down. That whole thing is just nonsense.
Yeah. It's very strange, and I think what the propaganda also does, it locks you up in a certain perception that this is selfish, wanting freedom is selfish, and so it creates this very tight box around people where they are afraid to go beyond because it feels uncomfortable. It feels everybody's looking at you as if you were selfish, and then you start believing it.
Yeah.
Do it for others.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There's lots of that, and usage of certain words. Some words have been actually phased out of English language a long time ago. One of these words is kakistocracy.
What is
and
it?
This is what we have now. Kakistocracy is the opposite of aristocracy. Aristocracy are the people who are educated, well-read, supposedly. And kakistocracy are the worst of us in power.
Kakistocracy?
Kakistocracy with a K.
I've never heard of that.
Exactly.
So
there's lots of concepts that have been changed or phased out in the English language. Kakistocracy.
Wow.
Yeah. So you don't have the concept.
It's 1984, right? Like.
Yeah.
What is it? Who controls the future controls the present, and who controls the present controls the past?
Yeah.
There's something.
That's another fascinating rabbit hole. Who we are? Who are we? Where are we coming from? What are all these? Who built all these impressive structures?
Right.
What happened to these trains? What were all these trains with children all about? There were thousands and thousands of children.
What happened to the parents? Were you talking about in the early 1900s?
Yeah, in the 1800s.
I heard of that.
Mid 1800s. Yeah, around that time. There are lots of mysteries. There's lots that our version of history that we learn at school is not covering. For instance, like I'm hoping this year to visit interesting ruins just north of Mexico City, and this is a beautiful pyramid called Pyramid of the Sun, surrounded by a beautiful ancient city that was there before Aztecs arrived.
Really?
Who built this? Where is this coming from? They don't know who built this. Magnificent city. So there were some civilizations there that we don't have name for. We don't know who they were.
We have a lot of digging to do. Margaret, we're kind of coming up to the end of the first segment, so if you don't mind, we take a 10-15 minute break, and I'll come back to you and open up a new. Maybe we can talk a little bit about. I don't know.
Want to come 10 after?
Whatever you want to talk about after. It's up to you.
Okay, yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about ancient ruins. I don't know.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll see you in a little bit.
So I'll see you 10 after. I'm just going to disconnect my sound and the image and the video. Yeah?
Okay.
All right.
See you in a bit. Thank you, everybody.